Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Andrew Rants, a video series where I stand upon my metaphorical soapbox pedestal of the world. I bitch, I holler, I yell, I scream, I complain until I'm blue in the face about things around me that annoy me, bother me, and just plain piss me off. And what exactly is it this time around that's got me going? Well, it's actually the winner of the Facebook poll. That's right. Because I screwed up and forgot to put the poll for the movies that annoy me on both sites, I decided, hey, why not give those people on Facebook a chance to have their own poll this time? And the winner is... Toys That Bug Me! Yay! Yeah. Alright, so, honestly, this is something that has bothered me even since I was a kid, and I mean younger than I am now. For those of you out there wondering that haven't watched the Q&A video or think that I'm like some teenager, no, I'm 29 years old. Born in 89, so I am 29 years old. When I was growing up in the 90s, I had a decent amount of toys growing up. And yes, I will say my grandfather and I got them from yard sales, I got them from holidays and things like that. Some of them I did get on my own or with any money that I got. So, yes, I have had my fair share of action figures, and I have had my fair share of toys. And I always have issues with some of them somewhere down the line or just after I buy them, but I wanted it so badly, it's like I'm willing to overlook it at the time. Take, for example, the Power Rangers Megazords. The gigantic bricks. Now, Bandai and Saban, I should mostly say Saban here, had to change so much from the original Japanese Super Sentai series just so they could get onto American airwaves. And you mean to tell me that Bandai couldn't follow suit and change up the toys from a brick? At the time, Hasbro had pretty much dominated the market with Transformers to the point that you know how a toy is supposed to move. It's going to have decent articulation. You mean to tell me you can't figure out a way to do this? Was it that difficult that you just didn't want to put money into R&D and think, we're not going to make that great of a toy? Now, don't get me wrong. At the time, their action figures for the Power Rangers weren't bad, but I got more posability out of the G.I.Joe figures that I was pretending were Power Ranger figures than I did out of the actual Power Rangers figures. I'm not joking. And those G.I. Joe figures were small. They were like, I think 3 inches or 3 1/4 inches or 3 3/4 inches. They had more posability and they had more movement and articulation than the Power Rangers figures did. Their torsos at least moved. The Power Rangers didn't. Now when you go with the Megazords, they're bricks. They're literal bricks. They're 5 smaller bricks you combine into a bigger brick. What the hell is the point of playing with a brick? That's not fun. Pyramidus was a brick. A hollow brick, but a brick nonetheless. And the fad continues because I can use the Lion Fortress or Lion whatever the hell it is Megazord from Super Ninja Steel. That gigantic, it was like $200. First off, any parent out there spending $200 on this for your kid, you got some problems. I would look at your son or daughter and go, there ain't no way in hell I'm buying you that. It ain't worth the money. Do you see the size of it? How much fun are you really going to have with that? But it looks so cool in the show. Yeah, it looks cool in the show because in the show, it's not the actual toy. In the show, it's gonna look cooler. This is not gonna look as cool as it does there. Trust me, the answer's no. And Hasbro had their own fair share along with these. Now, because I pretty much threw the Power Rangers under the bus now, it's time to throw some Transformers under the bus. They've had their fair share of issues with toys that didn't look as cool as they should have from the show. Transformers Cybertron's Optimus Prime and Wing Saber combination looked a hell of a lot cooler on the show than it did when I held it in my hands. Leo Breaker and Optimus Prime look badass. Optimus Prime and Wing Saber? No. Oh my god, no. That was a jumbled mess. you had some figures that don't look really good, or in the case of Bullet Matrix, just explode upon impact with the ground. Bumblebee, I'm looking at you. But they're not alone in this. There have been countless others that have also fallen victim to this. Pokemon had some really horrible figures. Yes, I know what you're saying. When? Well, they came out with those line of somewhat movable figures that had like small bits of articulation, nothing really much, but still, for something that is literally at the time gripping the entire world's wallets, I would have put a little more effort into thinking just a wee bit more about how you're going to make the toy look cool. You want kids to buy this, not just from what it looks like, but for the fact that it can move like it does in the show. We have a drawing that Leonardo da Vinci made showing how the human body moves. It is the same basically for all creatures, because you can study that and figure out how everything in the world moves. It's called the Vitruvian Man, okay? We know how the human body can move. We know how animals can move from studying them. Pokemon should not have been that difficult because you see how it's done in the show. Okay, put some articulations on the leg joints. We'll put a ball joint here, swivel joint here, torso articulation, have the wings move a bit on a ball joint here in the elbows. Oh yeah, this is gonna be cool. And do we get that? No. Another prime example is Irwin, when they came out with the Dragon Ball Z figures. Oh, God! Basically, they were bricks, but they moved. Not by much, but they moved. When Jakks Pacific bought the rights to the figures and they started doing them, oh my God, did it get better. You actually had elbow articulation, better shoulder articulation, knee articulation, ankle articulation, torso articulation, head articulation, and movement. Everything moved that should have moved. Especially from a show where they're doing martial arts and Jedi flips and things like that, and you basically you move the arm up, you move the arm up. You can't move the legs at all, and that's all you can do. That's a great toy. Really, that's a great toy. I really want to rush out and buy one of those. Can't move the arms. I can't move the legs. Well, I can move the arms straight up and down. I can't move the legs. I can't move the head. Yeah, I want to buy one of those. No, playability-wise, screw that. It's going to sit on a shelf for the next 27 years. Maybe grow an interest or something. I don't know. But that was a horrible excuse for figures, and that's my main issue. Even for the fact that we're going with how action figures and toys in general. I can just go on action figures here for a good long while, but screw it, let's just do that. Action figures have their issue of being either too hyperly muscular, where they look like they could bench press a bus, a city bus, just by bending it in their hand. And then you have female action figures that look a little too curvy. Yes, there have been many people arguing this, and my mom has brought up this point, and I quote, "Be happy that they are at least anatomically correct." At least at the time, that was her rebuttal. And then when you think back to the toys from when she was growing up and kind of when my generation was starting to pop around, yeah, it does kind of have a point, because you have Ken that has nothing. Ken's flat. That's the ongoing joke, by the way, in the community. Ken's got nothing downstairs, okay? We have a picture of how the human body looks. We know how the human body looks from sex ed class and from people, making the next generation that's buying this crap. We know how the human body's supposed to look. It's not that difficult of a concept when you stare at one for hours on end, giving them dollar bills because they're making you feel happy inside. No, there's not a love connection there. They're just making you feel happy in exchange for singles. Yes. But besides that, you have giant robots that don't work the way they should. They should have articulation, movement, not having the freaking 70s, I can only move my arms and legs up and down bullshit. I mean, for God's sake, put some thought and originality into the damn figures. Bandai started doing that when they were doing the Legacy Collection. God only hopes that Hasbro will continue on that line, but then again, let's see how they've screwed up Transformers over the years. One-step changers, gimmicks, two-step changers. Yeah, we're screwed. But they're not the only ones. You also have playsets. Now, when my mom was growing up, they probably had things I'll call dollhouses like they do now. They were probably a little more rampant and a little better, and imagination was a little more fluid and free thinking. My generation, on the other hand, gets royally screwed. Let me explain. When you have a play set, or you have an accessory that you get a whole bunch of figures with. I'm going to use a perfect example. When I was little, I got something, I'm pretty sure it was from my grandparents. I'm almost certain it was. It was around the holidays. I got this really cool space exploration set. It was this giant vehicle, some little sleds, or little wave runners, and a bunch of robotic soldier type people. And it was cool. The only downside is that you don't get half of them that you should, or the ones that are really cool looking, you only get like 4 or 5 of them. And you get 10 or less, you get like anywhere from 6 to 10 of the one that's ugly looking. It's like, great, I don't want this one, why do I have 10 of you and only 4 of you? That ain't fair in my book. But the thing that always got me with a lot of action figure sets, and even just play sets in general too, not all the stuff fits into it. You have a play set that is literally designed for the toy. And what does it not fit? The toy. The toy, you cannot fit every single one in there because it's not going to fit. Why doesn't it fit? That is the $1 million question. You designed this to work with these stupid things. The parents or grandparents or relatives or friends forked over the cash for this, and they can't get the figure to sit in here right because the pegs for the feet are too far apart, or they're not lined up properly, or they're really chintzy and they'll break off when you plop it down and try to pull it up. And don't ever get me started on the imagination part of this, because that's even worse. There is no freaking way that any of those things would have had the decent imagination properties that the toys would have had from the time. Basically, you can't sit there and come up with a neat adventure with those, because you have to worry, can I get them all back in here at the end of the day when I'm done playing with them? The answer's probably going to be no. At least Lego had the foresight when they created their model kits and their Lego sets to give people an idea based upon what they want. Here's the idea that we have, but you don't have to follow this. You can do anything you want with these. But here's what we'd like you to make, but you don't have to make this if you don't want to. If you just want this for the beautifully colored bricks, that's all you. And that's how it should be with other things. You have dolls that don't fit in doll houses. You have accessories that don't fit in the character's hands. How many parents out there that bought dolls and bought all those little... I'm going to use the Bratz dolls here. Perfect example. How many people out there bought the Bratz dolls, had all the little accessories, or the Monster High dolls with all their little accessories, and they don't fit into the hand? You gotta almost bend the hand and break it at a 90-degree angle just to give it a goddamn freaking hairbrush! Then you're gonna end up losing because the damn thing's only about yay freaking big. It's no bigger than a freaking penny. You're gonna lose that goddamn thing in a second. And God help you if you step on it or get sucked up in the vacuum. You ain't ever getting that thing back. Oh my God. Or better yet, you have those little figures that have the really small, tiny accessories. Hey, look, it's got a little rocket pack. You attach that onto here, and then you attach these onto the sides, and oh, that's really cool. Until they end up falling down the step, or falling on the ground, breaking apart, and those little pieces can fly. They can fly pretty goddamn far. You wanna know how I know that? I lost half a dozen little pieces because they fell on the ground, because, oops, I dropped it. Ping! It went everywhere. And I mean everywhere. And why? Because the pieces were so damn tiny, they had no air resistance to stop them. Basic Science 101, if your thing is very tiny, it's going to keep going until something stops it. Namely, a wall. But that's just the half of it. You have action figures that don't feel right. You have playsets that don't work right. You have commercials that are basically pitching you this crap, and they're saying, this is really cool. A perfect example is this Spider-Man thing that was out years ago. And in the commercial, the kids are playing with it on their wall with this really cool backdrop, and you're watching, like, this is really cool. I really want to get this. The backdrop is not included. The backdrop isn't even a damn product. And they have that in a freaking asterisk on the commercial. I wondered how many parents and how many kids bought that and were disappointed because there was no backdrop. Why would you even put the backdrop in then, morons? You're enticing them to buy something that doesn't exist in the thing that they're buying. And then there are those really cheap chintzy toys. You know, like the ones you can get at a pharmacy or something, that are always knockoffs of more popular stuff. I remember years ago, I went to one of our local pharmacy stores because they had this really, it looked cool, I'm not going to deny it, but it was like a cheap chintzy knockoff of the Power Rangers SPD Delta Megazord. And I'm like, I really want this. Only to find out when I got there, hey, they also have the Overdrive Megazord too, but I only have enough for this one. That thing was so freaking chintzy it wasn't funny. You put the thing together, you feel like if you honestly bend it in the wrong direction with your hand, you're going to break half of it. And that's the crap that you get. Those things are more annoying than anything I can think of. We're talking toys that require you to buy half a dozen other things. There were these robots that came out years ago. And I mean back, I would think I was in like high school or middle school when they came out. And you had to buy these card packs to go with them. You swipe it into the robot and it gains new power based on the cards you swipe. And you use it for battle. What the hell's the point of having a toy if I have to buy something to go with the toy? That's like having an RC car on display, souped up, bright colors, beautiful, can go 0 to 70 in 5 seconds flat. It can basically outrun your parents' sedan. But you need to have this add-on for it. A superized custom engine, $15,495. If you want that, I'll throw it in with this, the whole package together for, roughly 20 grand. What's the point then of that? Or like, oh, well, this toy has this. Batteries aren't included, though. That's understandable, because you don't want the batteries to corrode in the toy, and I'm fine with that. But then why bother giving it the gimmick anyway if it runs the risk of corroding the toy by having batteries in it? Why waste the time and effort making the toy if you have to put something in it that runs the risk of destroying the thing? I could go on and on and on and on and on. Even small figurines don't have the lap luxury that they do. Stuffed animals get screwed over. All toys, at some point or another, just find a way to get screwed over because they either don't move right, have really crappy stitching, quality control's just thrown right out the window, R&D doesn't even exist, and everybody just keeps thinking that it's fine! I don't think it's fine! I think it's annoying as hell! But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think that toys really have been getting the royal shaft for the last how many years? Or do you think they're just perfectly fine the way they are? Let me know what you think, and until next time, I'm Andrew Rhodes, and this has been Andrew Rants.